A Little Incident by Lu Xun. 6 years have gone by, as so many winks, since I came to the capital from the village. During all that time, there have occurred many of those events known as affairs of the state, a great number of which I have seen or heard about. My heart does not seem to have been in the least affected by any of them, and recollection now only tends to increase my ill temper, and cause me to like people less as the day wears on. But one little incident alone is deep with meaning to me, and I am unable to forget it even now. It was a winter day in the 6th year of the Republic, and a strong northerly wind blew furiously. To make a living, I had to be up early, and on the way to my duties, I encountered scarcely anyone. After much difficulty, I finally succeeded in hiring a rickshaw. I told the puller to take me to the south gate. After a while, the wind moderated its fury, and in its wake the streets were left clean of the loose dust. The puller ran quickly. Just as we approached the south gate, somebody ran in front of us, got tangled in the rickshaw, and tumbled to the ground. It was a woman with streak of white in her hair, and she wore ragged clothes. She had darted suddenly from the side of the street and directly crossed in front of us. My puller tried to swerve aside, but her tattered jacket, unbuttoned and fluttering in the wind, caught in the shafts. Fortunately, the puller had slowed his pace. Otherwise, she would have been thrown head over heels and probably injured. After we halted, the woman still knelt on all fours. I did not think she was hurt. No one else had seen the collision, and it irritated me that the puller had stopped and was apparently prepared to get himself involved in some foolish complication. It might delay and trouble my journey. It's nothing, I told him. Move on. But either he did not hear me or did not care, for he put down the shafts and gently helped the old woman to her feet. He held her arms, supporting her, and asked, "Are you all right?" "I am hurt." "I thought I saw you fall and it was not all rough. How can you be hurt? You are pretending. The whole business is distasteful and the rickshaw is merely making difficulties for himself. Now let him find his own way out of this mess." But the puller did not hesitate for a moment after the old woman said she was injured. Still holding her arm, he walked carefully ahead with her. Then I was surprised, as looking ahead I suddenly noticed a police station and saw that he was taking her there. No one was outside, so he guided her in through the gate. As they passed in, I experienced a curious sensation. I do not know why, but at the moment, it suddenly seemed to me that his dust-covered figure loomed enormous. And as he walked further, he continued to grow, until finally I had to lift my head to follow him. At the same time, I felt a bodily pressure all over me, which came from his direction. It seemed almost to push out from me all the littleness that hid under my fur-lined gown. I grew weak, as though my vitality had been spent, as though the blood has frozen in me. I sat motionless, stunned, and thoughtless until I saw an officer emerge from the station. Then, I got off from the rickshaw as he approached me. "Get another rickshaw," he advised. "This man can't pull you anymore." Without thinking, I thrust my hand into my pocket and pulled forth a big fistful of coppers. "Give the fellow this," I said. The wind had ceased entirely, but the street was still quiet. I mused as I walked, but I was almost afraid to think about myself. Leaving aside what had happened before, I sought an explanation for a fistful of coppers. Why had I given them? As a reward? And did I think of myself after my conduct fit to pass judgment upon the rickshaw puller? I could not answer my own conscience. Till now, that experience burns in my memory. I think of it and introspect with pain and effort. The political and military drama of these years, to me like the classic I read in childhood. I cannot recite half of a line of it, but always before my eyes, purging me with shame, impelling me to be better myself, invigorating my hope and courage. This little incident is reenacted. I see it in every detail, as distinctly as on the day it happened. A Little Incident is a short story written by Lucian in 1920 about an unforgettable incident that a young man had experienced in the past. The man looks back on his memories and narrates the details of the little incident he encountered. The story doesn't only focus on internal conflict but also represents the social problems that exist in our community. Zhu Shurin, or Lucian, was born on September 25, 1881, in Shaoxing province of China. He was a Chinese writer commonly considered the greatest in 20th century Chinese literature, who was also an important critic known for sharp and unique essays on the historical tradition and modern conditions of China. Lucian has been considered the most important Chinese author of the early 1900s. Throughout his political and intellectual development, he concluded that a literary movement was needed to build awareness and insight amongst the oppressed. His work promoted radical change through criticism of antiquated cultural values and repressive social customs. The characters of the story. The narrator is an educated young man, comes from the upper class of society. He's both the protagonist and antagonist of the story. He experienced an internal change which makes him a dynamic character. The rickshaw puller is the one hired by the narrator. As he brings the narrator to his work, an old woman accidentally crashes into the rickshaw. He had shown concern and helped the woman. The old woman has streaks of white hair and she wore ragged clothes. She had been dragged by the rickshaw and got hurt. However, the narrator only thought of her as a delay in his journey. The police officer from the station where the puller accompanied the old woman, he told the narrator to get another rickshaw because the man can't pull him anymore.